This is as quirky and individual a movie as any other that Selena has appeared in so far. This one has a lot of very short scenes and a lot of different plot lines. Production house logos. The viewpoint is that of 18-year-old Rick Stevens. A lot of people in trouble and mom as a suicide. Rick calls for an ambulance and a policeman arrives, selling tickets. The story starts to look at the 2 weeks previous to this suicide. This is a giddy collection of unbelievable detail. Rick has fallen in love. His brother is annoyed because of the toilet seat. His mom does not appreciate being blamed. Sister is a stripper who does okay at school. Dad is separate from family and just calls to collect an incriminating video he had left there by mistake. An introduction to the people at the strip club where Big Sister works. Cherish needs a favor and gives Rick some help in exchange. He then visits his best friend, Billy Bender, and Billy's mom appears to listen in with his mom's best friend. This might have been a big reason for the suicide. What would people say if they knew about Rick and his mom's best friend? Rick has an unfortunate bet with mafia child Carlos about how he will do with the girl he really likes. Saint Lola, patron saint of teenagers, appears in the boys' toilets. Some information about Nina Pennington and her ex-boyfriend. The Latin teacher then dies, and that leads to Rick gets a date with Nina for the teacher's funeral. Their first date, and Billy is in the back seat. Rick pretends to be friends with a rock star in order to impress her. The local priest then crashes into the car. Talk of deviled eggs and Carmelite nuns and vows of silence. Meantime, back at the strip club, the owner talks to the mafia about his plans. Rick makes an ecstasy deal for backstage tickets. Rick goes to Mrs. Bender and makes a different deal for a car. Rick gets the ecstasy, stores the extra, then gets a visit from his patron saint, who is not impressed. Meantime, his mom is getting drunk, and Billy's dad is getting ready for some hunting. The new Latin teacher dies. Nina wants to become a priest. The backstage tickets do not come through, but there is a discovery of illicit parental fun, and the date goes okay, anyway. There is a deal with the dads, except Rick's mom had them tailed by a private eye. Rick's mom is now going to rehab, and Rick's secret lover is spending some time with the priest, helping him plan bingo. The next new Latin teacher dies in front of Nina. Nina's ex tries to sink Rick, but Rick comes to a deal with the school headmaster. Nina's ex declares war against Rick, but Rick gets to walk Nina home. The car repair will take a week, so Rick can have a replacement car, and he asks for and gets an Aston Martin for a week. The police consider it suspicious. There's been a murder to hide the identity of a gangster. Rick now needs a lawyer. Get home. His house has turned into a brothel. Billy's idea, a party. Billy's mom arrives and takes the last 2 ecstasy. Rick's house gets more and more disorderly in the farce tradition. Jimmy Leach arrives to take care of Billy's mom. Nina arrives to be friends with Rick. Nina's ex arrives. This is not how Nina understood Rick, but at this stage she is not frightened off. Nina draws a saint symbol on Rick's hand, the patron saint of family. The mafia arrive. They do not like the stories that Rick has been telling the police. Nina loses faith in Rick. Nina then hears about the bet and loses more faith. The police and the television news arrive. Most everyone ends up in jail, even the priest. Rick tries to sort some of it out, and he now has crabs. Nina loses even more faith in Rick. Back home, family is annoyed with him. Dad has crabs. Saint Lola reappears with confusing advice. Stop thinking with your little head, you were given 2. Rick goes to confession, which starts well, just the priest has crabs. Crabs might have started with Cherish. Mrs. Bender is redirected away from him, as Rick says that his one goal is to sort out his family. That was the lead-in to the suicide attempt. Rick now has a clearer idea about what he wants to do. The hospital, with news about Mum and advice on dealing with Nina. Rick deals with the bet that he lost Nina. He gets a good deal with the lawyer and tidies up some of the mess and wins Nina, who is a volunteer at the hospital. Rick's brother gets an exotic dancer's job at the strip club and meets a saint.